Thanks for joining today, this afternoon. My name is Adam. I'm with our outreach team here at the California Electric Homes Program. I'm going to talk about our webinar for rebuilding all electric incentives and support for fire impacted homes. If you have any questions, please leave them in the Q&A log. I know that the chat is locked. We'll address them later in the call. And I also will have my colleague from the technical team, Charlie, and then also from our marketing team, Melinda. So just leave the questions in there. And just to start off, I know some of you are majority are probably from Altadena, from the RISE program, layering with the RISE program. Just wanted to note that they have a different application and a different process. So there might be confusion of whether there's one application for both programs. So if you have any questions, please reach out to RISE and I will share that information later if you need that. But we'll start the show. Starting off, I just wanted to point out just some benefits of all electric versus mixed fuel homes. Now, mixed fuel homes, you'll see a $500 annual savings in utility cost. And then you'll also see a 60% lower operating cost for your home and also a $23,000 added value. So these are all done by some different studies from different organizations. So pretty neat figures right there. This is very important right here that I want to stress. How do incentive programs work? So incentive programs are a little different than rebate programs, for instance, where you're applying for a rebate for your refrigerator or some other appliance where you just simply have to send the invoice or the receipt. For our program, there's some more steps involved in applying and receiving incentives. For instance, there's some different steps. So for our program, everything has to be, you have to enroll in the program before construction is complete. So the best time to apply is when your project is around permitting and or construction drawings phase. Once documentation completes, then enrolled projects will submit documentation for us to confirm that your home was indeed built to the specifications of the program requirements. Then the program team will review the documentation and then they'll follow up with any questions or requests for corrections. And then once your technical review is complete, you can request your incentive payment. And then our team will approve the documentation and we will submit your project for payment. So it's a pretty intricate process, but we'll help you out along the way. And some safety features of all electric homes. So all electric homes are, usually they're considered safer than gas-powered buildings for several reasons. There's a handful of them, such as reduced risk of fire and explosions, improved indoor air quality, simplified maintenance, elimination of carbon monoxide poisoning, and energy efficiency and control. A little background on the California Electric Homes Program. We're a program that incentivizes all electric residential new construction projects. We cover the entire state, not specific to any utility or region. And we do cover and incentivize many different project types, such as single family, duplex, ADU, triplex, modular, manufactured, and townhomes. But primarily from what we see with the rebuilds, it's going to be single family homes and ADUs. So we're gonna, in this webinar, really stress or go over the importance, I guess, of the requirements for those two types of projects. And the project timeline, our program will remain open until funds are reserved. And currently there's $17 million in incentives that are currently available. We have a up-to-date tally on our website that you'll be able to go on there and look to see how much incentive is available. One thing to note is that our program will not incentivize anything after October 1st of 2028. So that's the final date to receive certificate of occupancy, October 1st of 2028. So if your project is looking like it might complete late in 2028, just let us know and we'll be able to assess your project eligibility, but that is a very important date to be aware of. And for the program, you do have to have a certified energy analyst who will sign off on your Title 24 documents. This is something that we assist with as well to point you in the right direction to find one if you do not already have one. Shouldn't be a problem, but we'll definitely help you out with this, but wanted to have you be aware of this. And then electrification opportunities. So our program offers incentives to support the installation of energy efficient, all electric and storage technology and prepare homes to respond to time of use electrical prices. And then the graphic on the right just shows the different aspects of what you would see typically in an all electric home. Many of these right here will be prerequisites or requirements of our program. So just a neat thing and food of thought to have um, for your home. Jumping into base incentives, so there's some different levels of incentives per project type. For single family, duplex, triplex, townhome, and modular, the incentive is $2,500. The base incentive for manufactured homes is $5,000, and the incentive for ADUs is $1,400. And we do also offer a battery storage incentive. So if you're installing solar and you want to complement the solar with a battery system, you can do that. And it is $250 per kilowatt hour for battery storage. Just want to stress a little bit on the base amounts. That is based on meeting program requirements, such as the prerequisites that we'll go over in a second. So you meet those, that's what you can meet at a bare minimum for meeting the requirements. And then the program also offers some bonuses on top of that as well, that will also cover. So that might be room to earn more incentive dollars. And with that, what we're going to jump into now, I'm going to have my colleague Charlie jump in from our technical team. He's going to go over the different requirements for the prerequisites of the program. ADUs and manufactured homes are a little different, as you see in the asterisks on the bottom, but Charlie's going to go over them. And again, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A log.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. My name is Charlie or Charles Hughes. I am with the technical team with TRC, assisting Adam here with this presentation. So let's get started. We'll go over the initial base requirements or enrollment requirements and then move on to the bonus incentives and technical assistance offering. So starting with the enrollment requirements or prerequisites, as we call them, top left corner there, heat pump space heating, and moving over to heat pump water heating. For these two pieces of equipment, it is important that they are both heat pump and that they carry the heat pump name. There are a large offering in terms of both pieces of equipment of what you can install, but as long as they're heat pump, they are program eligible. Next, moving on to induction cooking. Similar story here. There are a couple different combinations of induction cooking setups that you can install, but as long as the cooktop itself is induction, that will suffice for program requirements. Moving down below, bottom left corner, thermostatic mixing valves. So this one, to begin with, is only going to be required for your single family main homes. It's not going to be required for your ADUs, and it's not required for any manufactured home projects. So what a thermostatic mixing valve is it is a T valve that is installed within the first 3 feet of hot water piping that comes off of your heat pump water heater. It has hot water piped in on one side, and then it pipes in cold water from your cold water recirculating line that comes back into the water heater. It branches off of that, and it pipes in cold water on the other. It mixes in the center and then sends water into your home. There's a couple of functions of this, which is why the program requires it. First of the three is it is an additional anti-scalding device. So when your plumber or contractor installs this, they will set it to the industry standard 120 degrees Fahrenheit. This pre-temps the water before it reaches your shower heads and faucets, so it takes a little bit of stress off of the tempering valves that are already installed. Second is this device allows you to set the standing temperature of your water heater up from 120 to about 140 to 160. This directly combats the growth of a bacteria that can grow in these systems called Legionella. Scientific studies have shown that Legionella growth is stunted at water temperatures of 120 degrees, but fully eradicated at water temperature of 140 to 160. And third, this device elongates your first hour use rating. So what that means is, and I'll explain it with an example, is imagine you have a system that doesn't have this device installed and you're calling for hot water at a shower head or faucet. 100% of your hot water is coming from the tank. Now, if you install this device, and these are just rough numbers for simplicity, same example, you're calling for hot water at a shower head or faucet. This is only pulling 75% hot water from the tank, and then it's mixing it with 25% cold water to cool it back down to 120 and then send it into the home. So it elongates that first hour use rating of your heat pump water heater. There is a potential caveat to this. If you are installing recirculation loops, you do not have to install this device. You can, if you're going to install both, I would consult with your plumbing contractor and designer because it needs to be done in a specific order. But for program purposes, if you're installing recirculation loops with a recirculating pump, you do not have to install this piece of equipment. Next, we'll move on to separation of lighting and plug circuits. So this is going to be a requirement of your single family main home and your ADU, but not required for manufactured homes. This prerequisite aligns relatively close with the current electrical code with one program addition. And that program addition is that when your contractor or subcontractor is wiring or electrician is wiring your breaker panel, they are grouping lighting circuits with other lighting circuits and plug circuits with other plug circuits, but they are not combining the two on any one circuit. Next, we'll move into communicating thermostats. So this one I call a 3 checkbox requirement. So first of the 3, it is that it is based off of a physical thermostat unit. So if you're using a ducted system, this typically is not an issue. If you are using a ductless system that utilizes either a smartphone app or a wireless remote to control those do not meet this requirement. It is based off of a physical thermostat. Second is that the unit needs to be Wi-Fi capable. It can also be what's known as Z-Wave capable. It's an alternative form of communication. If you go the Z-Wave route, there's an additional piece called the Z-Wave hub that needs to be installed. And that is for the third checkbox, which is the communicating thermostat needs to be what's known as demand response capable. Now, it is important to note, this program doesn't require you on any level to enroll in a demand response program. We just ask that the thermostat being installed be able to participate. Should that decision want to be made later down the road that you want to participate, you can do it without having to replace your thermostats. There is a potential caveat to this prerequisite, and it's based off of your Title 24. So you will have to consult with your Title 24 analyst, your CEA. If we see that the variable capacity heat pump or VCHP credit is on your Title 24, it's very important that it's this distinction. It's on your Title 24, then you do not have to install or you do not have to meet this prerequisite. And the combination of these, so for single family, there's 6. For the ADU, there's 5 with the drop off of the thermostatic mixing valve. And for manufactured homes, there's 4 with the drop off of thermostatic mixing valves and separation of lighting and plug circuits. These will qualify you for the base incentive that Adam was speaking on earlier. With that, Adam, we can move forward.
Yeah, and I just wanted to jump in real quick and let everybody know that the information Charlie's going over is going to be on the following slides that I'll share with all of you, so you don't have to memorize all of it or write it down, but that'll be provided for you in a follow-up, so you'll be able to refer back to them. Now we're going to jump into the bonus incentives.
Yep. So these are applicable to single family, your ADU, and your manufactured home. So the first of the bonuses that we offer, the envelope package, is going to be offered to your single family main home and your ADU. For this bonus, we are looking at 4 specific areas. So we are looking at the insulation level of your walls, and the line to meet there is to be equal to or better than the prescriptive requirement for the climate zone. It is the same for your attic and below roof deck insulation or your ceiling assembly. We compare it to the prescriptive requirement for the climate zone. As long as you're equal to or better than that, we'll consider it meeting. The third is the average weighted U factor of all the windows being installed at your project. The line to beat there is 0.25 or lower. And the fourth to pursue this bonus, you would have to opt into an additional HERS or ECC rating test known as blower door or air sealing. The line to beat there is 3 or better. Next, we'll talk about the mechanical package. This can be applied to all three, so single family, your ADU, and your manufactured house. This is based off of the specific equipment that you install for HVAC and water heating and their efficiency thresholds. So to qualify, your HVAC and your water heater need to be what's known as CEE Tier 1 compliant. Third, we'll talk about the envelope and mechanical adder. So this one is applied to single family and ADUs. And simply put, if you qualify for the first two, the program will throw these on top as additional bonuses. Nothing additional needs to be done other than qualify for the first two. Next, smart panel or home energy management system. This can be captured by all three occupancies. So this would be the installation of a smart panel. So something to the equivalency, just as an example, to a span panel. And then that is for the full breaker panel. And then on the home energy management system side, so it needs to be a home energy management system that would equate to a smart panel. The main difference there is that on the home energy management system side, you can pick and choose what circuits you want to apply it to. For program purposes, it's a mixture of large and small circuits, but that is the differentiation. The four criteria, the four checkboxes that we're looking for is one, the wireless energy monitoring of the circuits. Two is wireless control of the circuits, so you can turn breaker switches on and off via an interface that you can access through your phone, tablet, laptop, etc. Third is critical load shedding. So in a blackout and you have a battery or a potential brownout, what this function does is it will pull energy from circuits that are not prioritized, and it will apply that energy to circuits that are prioritized so that they stay powered. And then fourth is the ability to add in battery backup storage. Next, we'll talk about the heat pump water heater controller bonus. So for this one, it is a NEA rated tier 3 or tier 4 heat pump water heater. That's typically what's bought just across the board, whether it is a single one-off construction or subdivision building. That's just typically what's bought. So no issues there normally. And then the second is demand response capable. So we're looking for EcoPort or EcoNet integration. The full controller does not need to be installed, just as long as it has the capability to have that function. It will qualify. Next is the resiliency or demand response ready adder. This is a combination of three bonuses and the installation of battery storages or the installation of battery storage. So the three bonuses are the envelope package, installing a smart panel or home energy management system, and then meeting the heat pump water heater controller bonus. The last one is Energy Star, and that one is solely applicable to manufactured homes. What we are looking for there is a photo of the placard or Energy Star sticker that is affixed to the home, and then a photo or copy of the Energy Star certificate that is given to the homeowner of the residence. And with that, these are the bonuses offered. As similar to the prerequisites, we list them out in the slides following. We just like to stay on that slide for simplicity's sake. And then any questions at all regarding any of these that we don't respond to during this call, please feel free to reach out to myself or Adam, and we're happy to field those. And then next, so technical assistance. This is a service that is offered by the California Electric Homes program. It's completely free, completely optional. And essentially what it is a extension of the program to where if you guys as homeowners or your subcontractors or contractors or any specific trades or architects have questions pertaining to the program regarding prerequisite qualification, bonus qualification, materials and products being used on site, Title 24 guidance, et cetera, we can do that for you, and we are open to either scheduling a call to answer those questions for you or going back and forth via email correspondence, and again, with aims to answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Charlie.
Yep.
I think I may have missed to put or didn't put this, but battery storage. Did we review that?
You covered it in the beginning. I can go back over it if
Yeah,
you want. Yeah.
yeah. Just can you get over the
So
requirements?
yeah. So For battery storage, this program incentivizes battery storage, as Adam has stated earlier. It's a $250 per kilowatt hour incentive rate. So that just means it's based on the size of your battery. So, as an example, if you're installing a 10 kilowatt hour battery, the program 10 multiplied by 250 is 2,500. The program will pay you out 2,500 for the installation of that battery. In terms of requirements, there are currently three. One is that the battery storage system needs to be shown on the Title 24. Two is that the battery storage system needs to be a part of the final sign off, meaning that it needs to be a part of the normal construction process. This is not something that you can obtain your final sign off and then go back and install battery storage and ask the program for incentives for. We can't do that. And then third is the battery storage system has to be on the list, the CEC's list of approved battery storage systems. Most of your name brand battery storage systems are on there. So your Teslas, your Franklins, your Enphases. We will check regardless, but if it's a name brand system, it's more than likely on that list. And
Thank you
then with
for
that,
that.
I'll hand it back to you, Adam.
Thank you. Yeah, so the remaining slides right here it just goes over the participant journey of how pre-enrollment works. So you would submit an initial application either by reaching out to us via email or on the portal. You'll receive the link later to do that. The second step would be to participate in a program training call. Now, since you all are on this call, you wouldn't have to participate in that. The program training call would be the same, pretty much have all the same aspects of what we have reviewed and will review. If you do plan to pursue the program, what will happen is that you'll have to submit some documents to me and create a portal login that you'll be able to upload some of those documents. And then you will be passed over to one of my colleagues on our operations team. They'll become your main point of contact moving forward. And what they're going to do is send you a bookings link on Microsoft Teams, and you're going to have the ability to schedule a kickoff call. And during that kickoff call, they'll discuss layering opportunities with the program team, and then they'll also go into more detailed next steps. So that call would be required if you plan to pursue the program because it'll give you a good outlook on what the next steps are specifically. They're going to request some documents during that time, and those documents, what we do is we do a preliminary review of your project to make sure that it meets program requirements. Our team will look at those documents, our operations and technical team will review them, and our intake process could take up to 8 weeks. So, we do need a few weeks to, review your documents, and once they look at that and they approve, they'll give you an enrollment letter, which will entail any incentives you could receive for the base incentives, as well as any of those bonus incentives that you might pursue. So that's the pre-enrollment process. Another note to look at the bottom of the screen is that to receive incentives, lots must receive their certificate of occupancy after the project has been enrolled. So lots that have already received their COO before the project is enrolled are not eligible. And then program training and required documents. I know it says participate in a program training, but that's what we're doing right now. You would receive login instructions from myself or someone else on our outreach team to give you instructions of how to log in. To start the process, we would need a lot list. Lot list, I could take care of that. Basically, I would just need the address if you're doing an ADU, if that's going to have a different address in the main home, or if it's just a main home, and just some estimated completion dates, address, plan types. And then also we would need Cheers, HERS registry access. That would be done either by your architect or energy consultant. I would also give you some specific instructions of how to do that as well. So it's not something you would have to do or have to retrieve yourself. And then once you do that, I would be able to introduce you, like I talked about, to an operations associate. And that operations associate, they would become your main point of contact until your project is complete and your incentives are paid. Participant journey post-enrollment. So after that, once your project is enrolled, you would attend quarterly check-in calls with your operations associate and potentially someone on our technical team. These calls are just made to have a good outlook of any updates that you have, or if you need some information or vice versa. That's what will be reviewed during those calls. Once you complete construction, then you'll submit final plans and documents to us for a final technical review, just so that we could verify that your project met the program requirements that we talked about in the beginning of the pre-enrollment process. And that process won't take too long. It's going to take 2 to 3 weeks, so it's not going to take as long as the pre-review. And after you receive verification that your project met the program requirements, then you'll submit something called an incentive request package. And once we approve that and it looks good, then we will submit that for payment. And that payment could take up to 90 business days. Um, I know this is quite a bit of different milestones, but we're here to help, like I talked about. Operations associate will be your point of contact, and they'll have constant contact with you. And we definitely like to do some hand holding. So if you have any questions along the way, you could always email them, or if I'm your point of contact right until then, you could do that as well. Here's the kickoff call and required documents. These are not required right now, but just gives you an idea of some of the various documents that will be required. Myself or someone on the operations team, when you get to that point, they'll be able to point you in the right direction to retrieve these documents. So not something that you have to have a headache about. We'll definitely help you out with that. And incentive sharing and layering, which I know is a very important part of the rebuild. You want to take advantage of as many incentives and incentive programs as you can. I know many of you here on the call are from the Altadena, so are probably already in contact with Rise Homes, or if you're from Palisades with the LADWP Homes LA program. But we're different programs. We have different procedures and administrative processes. So if you have any, questions on their programs, please reach out to those respective programs. They probably have different portal logins. So our portal that I'm going to give you access to is not going to be shared with other programs. So you'd have to do those separately. So great thing is you could share incentives with both programs. For instance, if you're doing Rise Homes and California Electric Homes program, and take advantage of the incentives that are available just to maximize the amount of incentives for your project. And then resources and next steps, like I talked about. I'm going to share a PDF version of the slide deck with you for your reference. When you're ready to apply, like I talked about, best time to start applying and start the enrollment process is when you're at the permitting stage and or construction drawing stage. If you're a little earlier than that, it might be too early, but you could still contact me for any information, and I'll be happy to, relay that to you. And then once we get to that point, like I talked about, I'll help you create a login for your portal, and then I'll introduce you to your operations associate so they could schedule your kickoff call and go from there once you get to that point. And at the bottom of the screen, there's some program contacts and resources. That's the phone number for the California Electric Homes program, our email address, our website. If you'd like to go look at our website, we have some great case studies, fact sheets. We have the program handbook and some other resources if you want to do some research on the program. And then under that is the participant portal. That link right there will be where you would submit an initial application. And then the newsletter sign up. So if you want to sign up for periodic updates from the program, that's the last link. So great resources right there for you to reference. And some other resources, not going to click on these right now, but these are just, they'll be included in the PDF version of the slide deck. You'll be able to click them and do some reading on some different neat facts and some facts on the bottom, segregated circuits and thermostatic mixing valves about our prerequisites. So other than that, that's all we have for the presentation. And now we'll jump into Q&A.
All right. I can confirm we've got a few questions. So we're going to start. Charlie, we've got some questions about thermostatic mixing valves. And the question is are they only with the shower and tub faucet?
So unfortunately, no, you can't single them out. Thermostatic mixing valves are by default classified as point of source devices, so they would be installed at the source of water heating. So essentially right on top of or very close to coming off of your heat pump water heater.
Great.
So, yeah.
Are there some heat pump water heaters that have these built in already, or is it always an additional add-on?
There are a few. I've seen a few Rheem units that have these located, it's under like a plastic cover, still on the external of the water heater, but they come with those. They're typically an additional add-on. Some distributors make certain models that have them, but it is very rare that we see those. I do, since we're talking about this or we're revisiting this, I do also want to elaborate. We recently added the addition of electronic mixing valves that are internal to water heaters. The important point there is that you can temperature set the mixing valve separate from what you can for the tank. So if your mixing valve can have its own temperature, the internal mixing valve, separate from the tank, it potentially qualifies. We'll do our review and let you know. But if by design the internal mixing valve is always going to match the tank, that will not be program eligible.
So still back on that, are these expensive, these thermostatic mixing valves? Is that additional like astronomic cost? Is it pretty reasonable?
So what we've heard from, just in terms of word of mouth, is that the unit price itself is about $200 to $300 on the single family side, and then in terms of installation, if you catch it early enough, I wouldn't suspect it would be a crazy add-on to your bid for your subcontractor or your plumbing contractor. If you do catch it late and you have to go back and they have to essentially, cut pipe and rebend pipe and do all that, it's going to be more. So if you catch it early enough, I would say that's obviously when it'll be minimalistic in terms of added cost, but unit price $200 to $300 typically.
Awesome. I'm really glad we're talking about it today. Okay, we have another question on that same topic, so don't go away. The question is about super hot showers. Like, is that possible with the thermostatic mixing valve?
It is up to 120 degrees. Past that, not even the code wants you to have those showers. So we can only do as much as we can do, but
Awesome. That's great. Okay, this one's for you, Adam. How are the incentives distributed between RISE and CalEHP?
Yeah, great question. So like I mentioned earlier, they're different program and I didn't mention it, but they're a different funding source as well. So California Electric Homes program is funded by the state budget, so it comes out of state funds. And the RISE program comes from ratepayer funds, so different pots of funding, as you can say. We could layer both, but they would be different. So if you want information on how theirs are distributed, you could reach out to RISE. But yeah, like I talked about, different entities, different funding sources. So I guess that probably answers the question, hopefully.
Well, I'm going to do an add-on.
Yeah.
So, CalEHP, if we have one of our attendees today go through the process and they finish their project and they submit their forms, where does the money come from? How do they get it? We send them a
No.
check.
Yeah, a check. Yeah, yeah. Oh, you want to know what you actually receive? Yes, it would be a check.
We
So it's
send a
not
check.
it's not going to be a tax credit. I know
Right.
that's a
That's
question I get a lot as well. It's not a tax credit, it's incentive, actual
and
an
I
check.
actual
believe
check in the
too,
mail.
these shouldn't interfere with your tax credits either. I don't believe.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, always
Awesome.
consult with their tax professional for that as well.
Oh, good answer. Very safe.
Yes.
Okay. We've got two more. Oh, a few more. So hold on. Do you recommend to have you meaning our team at CalEHP or a CEA review the Title 24 before it's submitted?
We'll say submitted to the program. Um, so I would say safe bet is both. So via the Cali or the Electric Homes Program TA technical assistance offering, you can request that through our technical assistance team, and we'll review it and provide any feedback, and then you can take that back to your CEA and talk with them over potential revisions and how you want to move uh, or go about it that way. And I would say the process more than likely would be very similar if you're trying to get it in before plan check, so that way everything is on the same page. We 100% can review it on our end through our technical assistance offering.
Awesome. And is there a cost for that technical assistance?
Nope, it's completely free.
Oh, great answer. All right. So not to delay the permitting approval process, can they apply for this program after permits are approved?
Yes,
Yes. Can you apply before?
yes.
Look at that. Awesome. Okay, next, battery backup. Does it matter if the equipment is owned or leased?
Not to my knowledge, no.
All right, that is excellent. And I would imagine that many folks do actually lease it since it's an additional expense, but it's a great investment. So that's the questions we have for today. If there's anything additional, I encourage everyone joining us today to reach out to Adam directly. And we are here to support your project. We love to talk about all electric homes, and we wish you the best in your rebuild.